I live in a quiet block in Surulere, Lagos. The kind of place where people nod, greet, and keep their secrets tucked behind polite smiles. My flat sits across from a narrow corridor that smells of old paint and cooking oil. Every evening, I hear the same sound before I see the same man. Soft steps. A pause. Then the slow scrape of wet shoes on concrete. His name is George. I noticed it the first week he moved in. Around 9:40 p.m., the corridor lights flicker, and George appears. He is tall, neat, always in a clean shirt. His face looks tired, not the tired of long work, but the tired of long thoughts. And his shoes, every night, are wet. Not muddy. Not dirty. Wet. He walks carefully, like he is afraid of leaving marks. Sometimes he removes the shoes outside his door and carries them inside, holding them away from his clothes. Other times, he stands there for a few seconds, staring at the floor, as if he is counting his breath. I told myself it was not my business. Lagos teaches you that lesson fast. But curiosity has a way of knocking louder than sense. One night, I met him by the stairs. The lift was down again. He smiled first. "Good evening," he said. "Good evening," I replied. His shoes glistened under the yellow light. Wet again. I wanted to ask. I didn't. We climbed the stairs in silence. Halfway up, he stopped. He bent slightly and pressed his palm on the wall, breathing slow, like he was calming his heart. "You okay?" I asked. "Yes," he said quickly. "Just long day." He smiled again. A careful smile. I watched him walk ahead of me, shoes leaving faint prints that faded as fast as they appeared. That night, sleep refused to come. My mind kept replaying the same picture. George every night, wet shoes, quiet eyes. Lagos is hot, dry, busy. Wet shoes do not just happen. The next evening, I waited. I told myself I was only stepping out for air. But when the corridor clock ticked past 9:30, I sat on the stair rail like a guard. At 9:42, the sound came again. Scrape. Pause. Breath. George turned the corner. His shirt was crisp. His trousers clean. His shoes wet. This time, I spoke. "George," I said softly. He stopped. "Yes." "Your shoes, are they always like that?" The silence that followed was heavy. He looked down at his feet. Then he laughed, but the laugh did not reach his eyes. "Work," he said. "It's nothing." I nodded, even though it was clearly something. We parted ways. But that night, I heard a sound I had never heard before. A sob. It came through the thin wall we shared. Low. Controlled. Like someone trying not to break. I sat on my bed, frozen. Lagos does not pause for pain. But pain still lives here. The next days followed the same pattern. Wet shoes. Quiet nights. Then, something changed. On Friday, George did not come home at 9:40. He came at 11:15. His face was pale. His shirt was still neat, but his hands shook as he unlocked his door. His shoes were wetter than ever. Drops slid down and gathered on the floor. He did not greet anyone. He did not smile. As he bent to remove his shoes, something fell from his pocket. A small white card slid across the floor and stopped near my feet. He froze. I picked it up without thinking. It was a hospital tag. Not a bill. Not a flyer. A tag. The name Olivia was written on it in blue ink. Below it was a date. Today's date. George's eyes met mine. Fear lived there. Raw and open. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "Give it back." I handed it to him. "Is she?" I started. He cut me off. "Please," he repeated. "Don't ask." He grabbed the tag, rushed inside, and locked his door. That night, the corridor smelled like disinfectant. And for the first time since George moved in, the wet shoe marks did not fade quickly. They stayed. Like a warning. Like a trail leading somewhere I was not ready to follow. After that night, I could not look at George the same way again. The hospital tag stayed in my mind like a sharp stone in a shoe. Olivia. The name sounded soft, gentle. not like something that should come with fear. The next morning, I saw him leaving early. His shoes were dry then. Polished. Normal. He looked like any other Lagos man rushing to work. If I had not seen those wet shoes night after night, I would have believed everything was fine. But nothing was fine. That evening, I did not wait by the stairs. I stayed inside, pretending to mind my business. Still, my ears stayed open. At exactly 9:38 p.m., I heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. I opened my door a little. George stood there again. Same neat shirt. Same tired face. Same wet shoes. Only this time, his hands were shaking badly. He leaned against the wall, eyes closed, breathing like someone who had just run a long distance. George, I called quietly. He opened his eyes and looked at me. Something in his face gave up. I'm sorry about yesterday, I said. I didn't mean to pry. He nodded but did not speak. We stood there in silence until he finally asked, "Can I sit for a moment?" I brought out a plastic chair and placed it by the corridor window. The city lights blinked in the distance. Cars honked far below. Lagos kept moving, as always. George sat down slowly. He removed his shoes and placed them carefully beside him. Water dripped onto the floor. I don't go home directly from work, he said suddenly. I waited. I go somewhere else first. Every night. Where? I asked. He looked away. His jaw tightened. To a place where people are not seen, he said. A place people pass every day and pretend does not exist. I felt a chill, even in the heat. He rubbed his palms together, as if washing something invisible off them. Olivia is my wife, he continued. We have been married for 11 years. I swallowed. Is she sick? Yes, he said. Then after a pause, no. Not sick in the way people understand. He stood up suddenly, like the chair was burning him. I shouldn't be saying this, he muttered. I really shouldn't. Then don't, I said gently. But he had already started. Olivia used to work in banking. Strong woman. Smart. Always in control. Then one day, she broke down in traffic. Just stopped responding. No accident. No warning. He laughed softly, but it sounded empty. The doctors called it exhaustion. Stress. Lagos pressure. They gave us papers, drugs, advice. Nothing worked. He picked up one shoe and squeezed it. Water spilled out. I take her somewhere every evening after work, he said. Somewhere quiet. I felt my chest tighten. Is she in the hospital? I asked. He shook his head quickly. No, not anymore. Before I could ask more, a woman's voice echoed from downstairs. Angry. Loud. Cursing someone for blocking the gate. Normal Lagos noise. George flinched at the sound. She hates loud places now, he said. She hates being seen. I noticed his hands. The skin around his nails was pale, wrinkled. Like hands that stayed in water too long. You wash things, I said without thinking. He froze. I realized then that I had crossed a line. But he did not get angry. He just looked tired. I clean, he said. I clean after people who cannot clean themselves anymore. My heart dropped. George. She does not walk properly, he continued. Some days she does not talk. Some days she does not remember me. He leaned closer and whispered, but she remembers water. I did not understand. He picked up his shoes again and stood by his door. I have to go inside now, he said. I stayed too long. Before he entered, he turned back. Please, he said, eyes full. If you hear things, at night, just ignore it. The door closed behind him. An hour later, I heard it. A soft sound. Not crying. Not shouting. Water. Running. And then a voice. A woman's voice. Calling George's name. Over and over. And suddenly, something heavy hit the floor inside his flat. Hard. Final. I jumped up, heart racing. And then came a scream. The scream tore through the wall like a blade. I did not think. I moved. I rushed out into the corridor and knocked hard on George's door. George. George. No answer. I knocked again. Louder. The sound inside was chaos now. A chair scraping. Heavy breathing. Water splashing against tiles. George. I shouted. The door opened suddenly. George stood there barefoot. His eyes were wild. His shirt was wet at the sleeves. Behind him, the flat smelled like soap bleach and something sharp that burned my nose. She fell, he said quickly. She slipped. I looked past him. The sitting room was bare. No sofa. No table. Only plastic buckets lined against the wall. Towels everywhere. The floor was soaked. And in the middle of it all was Olivia. She sat on the floor, her back against the wall. Her hair was tied back, but loose strands stuck to her face. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing. Water pooled around her legs. She looked thin. Too thin. Like life had been quietly leaving her for a long time. Olivia, George said gently, kneeling beside her. I'm here. I'm here. She did not answer. I stood frozen at the door. I didn't mean to scream, George said, his voice shaking. She panicked. Olivia suddenly looked up. Her eyes locked on mine. Fear filled them. She tried to move away, her hands sliding on the wet floor. Please, she whispered. Don't look. My heart broke in a way I did not expect. I'm sorry, I said softly. I'll step outside. No, George said quickly. It's okay. She needs to get used to people again. Olivia shook her head hard. No people, she said. No noise. Her voice was weak but clear. George took her hands. It's just the neighbor. He's kind. She stared at me again, then at the buckets. Water, she said suddenly. I need water. George stood up at once. He lifted one of the buckets and poured water slowly over her feet. Only her feet. Olivia sighed. Her shoulders relaxed. Her breathing slowed. I understood then. The wet shoes. George noticed my expression. She cannot sleep unless her feet are in water, he said quietly. The doctors don't understand it. But it calms her. I said nothing. She walks into water when she gets overwhelmed, he continued. Any water she finds. Tap water. Buckets. Even public places. My chest tightened. I follow her, he said. I stand there with my shoes on. I don't care. People stare. Security men shout. I don't care. Olivia closed her eyes. She once walked into a public bath place, George said. One meant for strangers. People laughed. Someone recorded her. His voice cracked. That video went online. My breath caught. Bank people saw it, he said. Her office. Her friends. Everyone. He laughed bitterly. They called it madness. Olivia suddenly began to cry. Silent tears ran down her face. George wiped them gently. They asked me to hide her, he said. As if she was shame. I felt anger rise inside me. She is not shame, I said. George looked at me, surprised. I know, he said softly. But Lagos does not forgive weakness. Olivia opened her eyes again. George, she whispered. The room is spinning. George froze. He touched her forehead. It's happening again, he murmured. What's happening? I asked. She forgets where she is, he said. When it gets bad. Olivia suddenly pushed his hands away. Who are you? She asked sharply. The question hung in the air like smoke. George did not move. It's me, he said gently. Your husband. She stared at him. I don't have a husband, she said. I live near water. My heart pounded. George turned to me. His eyes begged. Please, he whispered. Can you help me lift her? I stepped forward. The moment I touched Olivia's arm, she screamed. Don't take me, she cried. Please don't take me back there. She kicked wildly. One bucket tipped over. Water rushed across the floor and into the corridor. And then, from inside the flat, a loud knock came. Not from George's door. From inside. 3 hard knocks. Like someone else was there. George's face drained of color. "That's not possible," he whispered. The knocking came again. Slow. Deliberate. From the bedroom. And Olivia went completely still. The knocking did not stop. 3 slow knocks again. Each one landed heavy, like it knew our fear. George stood frozen. Olivia's body went stiff in his arms. Her eyes were wide now, fixed on the bedroom door. "No," she whispered. "Not there." I felt my throat go dry. "George," I said quietly, "is someone inside?" He shook his head. "I locked that door this morning. No one is there." The knocking came again. This time, Olivia screamed. "Edward!" she cried. "Please don't let him in." George flinched at the name. "Olivia," he said gently. "Edward is not here." She began to shake violently. "He comes when I'm wet," she sobbed. "He comes when I can't run." My heart started to pound. "Who is Edward?" I asked. George did not answer. His face had gone tight, like a man holding back a truth that hurt too much. The knocking stopped suddenly. The silence was worse. Then the bedroom door handle turned. Slowly, the door opened. Empty. Nothing was there. No person. No shadow. Just the small bedroom, neat and bare. A bed. A chair. A closed wardrobe. Olivia screamed again and tried to pull away. "Don't let him touch me," she cried. George held her tight. "Nobody is touching you. Nobody." I stepped back, my hands shaking. "George," I said, "she is reliving something." He nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "Every night." He carried Olivia gently to the bed and laid her down. He poured water into a shallow bowl and placed her feet inside it. Almost immediately, her breathing slowed. She stared at the ceiling, tears sliding into her hair. "I told them," she whispered. "I told them what he did." George sat beside her, his back curved like he was carrying a heavy load. "They did not listen," he said quietly. I felt cold all over. "Edward was her supervisor," George continued. "At the bank." My chest tightened. "He used power," George said. "Late meetings. Closed offices. Promises." Olivia turned her face away. When she spoke up, George went on. "They told her to rest. To take leave. They said she was unstable." His voice shook. "They asked me to sign papers. Mental evaluation forms." I remembered the hospital tag. "Did you?" I asked. George nodded slowly. "I signed. Because they said it would protect her." Olivia laughed suddenly. A dry, broken sound. "He walks free," she said. "I walk in water." Tears burned my eyes. "What about Edward?" I asked. George's jaw tightened. "He still works there." Silence filled the room. Legos outside kept moving. Generators hummed. A bus horn blared far away. Inside this flat, time felt frozen. That night, George said, after she broke down in traffic, she walked into a public wash place. People stared. Some laughed. Someone recorded. He swallowed hard. "Edward sent me that video," he said. He said, "See what you married." My hands clenched into fists. "And the water?" I asked softly. George looked at Olivia. "She says water is the only place he never touched her," he said. "So she returns to it. Again and again." My heart broke. Suddenly, a loud knock came at the front door. Hard. Angry. Not gentle like before. "Open this door." A man's voice shouted. George jumped to his feet. "That's the landlord," he whispered. "His name is Edward too." Olivia's eyes flew open. "No," she screamed. "Not him. Not again." The knocking grew louder. "You're flooding my building," the voice shouted. "I've warned you." Water from the bathroom had reached the corridor now. George looked at me, panic filling his eyes. If he sees her like this, he said, they will take her away. The door shook under another hard knock. Last warning, the landlord shouted. Olivia grabbed George's arm. Don't let them lock me up, she begged. Please. George stood torn between the door and the woman he loved. The knocking turned violent. The door began to crack. And just as George moved to stop it, Olivia slipped her feet out of the water and stood up, her eyes empty, her body moving on instinct, walking straight toward the open bedroom, toward the place she feared most. And this time, George was not fast enough. Olivia walked past George like he was not there. Bare feet. Slow steps. Her eyes were open, but she was not seeing the room. She was somewhere else. Somewhere darker. Olivia, George said, his voice shaking. Stop. She did not. She reached the bedroom and stood in front of the wardrobe. Her hands trembled as she touched the handle. Behind us, the front door finally gave way. It opened with a loud crack. The landlord stormed in. A big man. Angry face. Loud breath. Are you mad? He shouted. Do you know how much damage you? He stopped. He saw Olivia. Wet floor. Buckets. Her thin body shaking. Silence fell. What is this? He asked, his voice lower now. George stepped forward at once. Please, he said. Don't shout. She gets scared. The landlord frowned. Is she drunk? Olivia suddenly turned. She looked straight at him. Her eyes filled with terror. You, she whispered. The landlord stiffened. Me. Olivia backed away. You came again. You said nobody would believe me. George froze. My heart stopped. The landlord laughed once, short and confused. Madam, I don't know you. Olivia screamed. The sound was sharp and full of pain. She's not talking to you, George said slowly. She's talking to him. The landlord's face changed. Who? George pointed at the wardrobe. Silence. Olivia shook her head hard. He hid his face. But I know his voice. She dropped to the floor and curled in on herself. I told them, she cried. They told me to be quiet. The landlord stepped back. This is madness. I'm calling people. George moved fast. He stood between the landlord and the door. No, he said. You are not. The landlord stared at him. Are you threatening me? I am protecting my wife, George replied. My phone vibrated in my hand. I had already called emergency services when the door first cracked. I did not say it out loud. Olivia suddenly went quiet. Too quiet. George rushed to her. Olivia. She looked up at him. For the first time that night, her eyes were clear. George, she said softly. My shoes are dry. He blinked. What? I walked back without water, she said. I was scared, but I did not go into it. Tears ran down George's face. Sirens sounded in the distance. The landlord's anger turned into fear. What did you do? He asked me. Enough, I said. The door opened again, this time calmly. Uniforms. Questions. Gentle voices. Olivia did not fight. She held George's hand tightly. As they led them out, George slipped his feet back into his shoes. They were wet again. I understood now. Every night, George followed Olivia into places people did not want to see. Public taps. Open wash areas. Hidden corners of Lagos where pain hides in plain sight. He stood in water with her, so she would not be alone. So she would not feel dirty or ashamed. He carried her fear on his body. He carried it home on his shoes. As they walked down the stairs, Olivia looked back at me. Thank you, she said. George did not look back. But his shoulders were lighter. And for the first time since he moved in, the wet shoe marks faded completely before morning. Thank you for listening. What is your view about this story? Let us know in the comment section. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.